Hello, everybody, and welcome back to the A-side. I am your host, Riley, and today we're going to be reviewing the newest album by rapper, producer extraordinaire, musical genius, living legend Kanye West, Donda. Um, it's finally out. I really didn't think it was going to come out. I thought this record was going to go the way of Yandhi and Swish and Love Everyone and Jesus 2, A Good Ass Job. I really thought we weren't going to get this record, but surprisingly, it's here. And really good. I want to say right off the bat, I do love this album, although I do think it has some flaws. I really love this album, and I wanted to wait a while. I waited about a week to do this and really get some good listening in. And there's a lot to love about this record. But before we get into that, make sure you check to see if you're subscribed. If you're not, go ahead and subscribe if you like what you see. I mean, it's free, and you can always unsubscribe if you want later. And, I don't know, leave a like if you liked Donda. Before I get into what I love about the album that's going to take up most of you, I just wanted to talk about some general things I had a problem with. The record is a little too long. It's Kanye's longest album at like an hour and 48 minutes, give or take. I definitely don't think every single track lands. And I think the part twos are pretty useless. There's only like one or two things I think the part twos do in all, even that work for them. I think they're just, like I said, pretty much useless. The only one I really would even say is worth listening to is Jail 2, just because I think it adds a little more layer to it in some spots where I think a little more oomph and emotion could have been used. But definitely the length, it starts to feel like it runs a bit long near the end. Now, it doesn't do it throughout most of the album. It doesn't feel too long, because this album has a lot of wide, dynamic ranges of sounds. It's probably Kanye's most eclectic album thus far, which is saying a lot, because this is the same guy that made The Life of Pablo and Kids See Ghosts. But there's a lot of different sounds on this album. I mean, there's a rock song, a drill song, there are trap bangers, gospel songs, stadium hip-hop anthems, so many different sounds throughout the entirety of this record. And as a result, I think it can feel a little incoherent, musically, sonically, even lyrically in spots. But I think there's a general vibe that still holds this together and really makes it sound like a complete project. It definitely feels complete and that it belongs together, even if it's a little incohesive in spots. I do think it fits as an entire project, just because there's a general kind of vibe about every song. This album does have a little bit more of a darker tone. There are some sunnier moments, but every song just has this kind of general vibe to it that really just makes it feel like it belongs on Donda. But there definitely is a lot to love here. So many amazing features, a lot of amazing bars. We're hearing songs I thought we'd never officially hear, like Hurricane and Believe What I Say. It's just a wild moment to be a Kanye fan, the fact that this dropped, and also randomly on a Sunday, after all these delays and changes with the album. On the third listening party, we had, like, verses cut and other things added, and then all of a sudden they were back, and it's just been a wild rollout, but one that definitely has had a lot of excitement. And one that has led us to a really, really good project today. And I think I'm just going to get right into the track list and break down pretty much how I feel about most of these songs. Because I am a huge Kanye West fan. I love Kanye. I even like Jesus is King from 2019, as I've affectionately dubbed Jesus Trap. I even like that record. But I think what this album does really blows Jesus is King out of the water, because it shows that Kanye can make his Christian, non-secular music and still push the boundary of what rap music can be. I mean, listen to God Breathed. I think that's a really good example of that, because that song has, like, so weird. It's got, like, these weird vocal samples, and then it's got, like, the vocal choir has this, like, super, like, menacing effect to it. It's, like, super dark, an atmospheric feeling, and it really just feels so different for hip-hop. I mean, it's like a bass line, it's bass, a vocal choir, and then these weird voice samples, but it's all Christian themed. It's all religious. It's talking about God. Obviously, God breathed on this song. God breathed life into me. So it shows that Kanye can still make this uber religious music, but still push the boundaries of what hip hop can do sonically, when it comes to sampling, and when it comes to beat making, and just exactly what a rap song can be. I do have some gripes with God Breathed, though. I think its extended ending just drags on a little too long. The song's about 5 minutes, and it's got a really long instrumental outro, and I just feel myself getting very bored and getting very sick of it throughout the end of it. But the rest of the song is pretty amazing. It just sucks that it was kind of dragged out a little longer than I think it should have been. But I'm just going to try and go through the track list in order now. We open up with Jail, which is like a straight up rock song. The first time I heard this, I was taken aback. I was like, what? These like super crunchy, distorted guitars come in. Dinner. And I really was not expecting that from this record, or really a religious Kanye at all. I feel like the time for a Kanye rock album has like very much since passed. I feel like that would have been more a Kids See Ghosts kind of era thing to do. But hearing this pretty much rock song now is really interesting, and if you've got Kanye singing over it, and I like a lot of the melodies, and I like a lot of what he's saying. At first, I really didn't like the vocal manipulation on his voice. I thought he sounded super tinny and weird. I have grown to be able to tolerate it a little more, and I definitely do really enjoy this song. I'll be honest, we are liars, we are liars is a really good spot, but I think it's the only moment where a part 2 actually outshines the original just a little bit. The added vocals on the we are liars really helps give that more of a emotional kind of push, an emotional moment. It really feels like it's a like kind of climax moment. I just hate the fact that it was Marilyn Manson. I would have really wanted it to be someone else, and it was also just relegated to a part 2, and I think part 1 is much better because it has the great Jay-Z verse on it, and it's so good to hear Jay working with Kanye again, the return of the throne. I mean, it's even possible we get Watch the Throne 2 at this point, which is something I thought we wouldn't ever even be close to getting. But that's about all I have to say about Jail. I think it's a really cool song. I like a lot of what Jay-Z has to say. The lyric about this is what Braille feels like, that's on site, I think is pretty interesting. And overall, I just think it's a really solid opening song. Of course, then we go into God Breathed, and it switches lanes pretty fast, which I already talked about what I liked and disliked about God Breathed. And then it switches lanes again, like on a dime, with the amazing song Off the Grid. Now, this song has like a drill beat. It is a drill song, and I don't usually really enjoy drill all that much. The Pop Smoke album, I wasn't really a big fan of earlier this year. Last year, Kid Cudi had that drill song on Man on the Moon 3. I didn't really like it. What I've heard of drill and what I've been too exposed to, I just personally haven't been a big fan of. It blows me away here. Oh my god, does this beat sound so good. All of it. The snare hits on here are so intense and so amazing. They sound like gunshots. So much of this is amazing. Near the end, when Fivio Foreign is giving his verse, and the electronics are just going wild, and there are all these different electronic sounds over Fivio Foreign's great verse. It's just so intense. And then it comes back to Kanye's final verse, and it really just has you so invested in the song. It's so just intense. And it feels very kind of urgent in a way, but also super aggressive. And what Kanye's saying is amazing. It's super catchy. The hooks, we off the grid, 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 grid. Will be stuck in your head all day. This is one of the best songs Kanye has made in a long time, which says a lot, because I love a lot of what Kanye has done, but this just blows everything that was on Jesus is King away, and I like that record, but oh my god, this is one of the best rap songs ever, probably. And Playboi Carti's verse on here is amazing, too. I love Playboi Carti, as you probably know, and I love seeing him here, and I think this is one of just the most wild things ever. He drops a whole lot of Red style verse with the super like wild ad libs and the aggressive kind of inflections and stuff. Not quite as radical as on Whole Lotta Red, but definitely very reminiscent of that. Yeah, and that's what's wild about it, is that on this Kanye West project, we have Playboy Cardi giving a Whole Lotta Red style verse on a drill beat on a Christian gospel rap album. These are three worlds that are so strange to be colliding, but it just works so well. It's like, I don't know, like peanut butters and Doritos. I think that's nasty, but some people like it. I can't think of a nasty example of things that you don't think would work but do. I don't know. But that would be the vibe it's going for. And it really works. I think Off the Grid is one of the best songs on the album. The beat is just insane. And it starts off great, but then just builds more and more. Then we've got like the kind of drill hi-hats coming in, and then the snare drums that sound like gunshots, and then we get the swirling kind of lower register electronics that come out through here, and it's just fucking wild. It is such a good beat on such an amazing song, and all three MCs give killer verses throughout the entire track. And I think some of Kanye's lyrics are pretty cool on here, too. I got this God power, that's my leverages. I got this holy water, that's my beverages. That's a pretty cool lyric. And people are really kind of dogging on the I talk to God every day, that's my Bessie. They playing soccer in the backyard, I think I see Messi. I think it's funny, but whatever. Also, mask on my face, you can't see what I'm finna do. I mean, that's what the point of the mask is. Anyway, continuing to the next song, Hurricane, which I truly thought we would never see an official version of Hurricane after all of these years. Hearing it way back in 2018 for the first time for the Yandhi release. And now here we are, and it's so different in this form. Well, I personally prefer the Yandhi version with Ant Clemens on it. One of my favorite Kanye songs. This is an amazing version and is almost as good. It takes on a much kind of darker vibe with these electronics and organs, just really making it sound so atmospheric. And then you have The Weeknd's kind of beautiful, velvety, dark vocals that he's known for, dark R&B vocals, singing the Season 3D, all lights out for me, all lights out for me, lightning strikes the beach, 80 degrees, and it's so good to finally hear that, officially, and I think that The Weeknd kills it, especially with the newer kind of darker vibe the song has taken on. It's definitely not as uplifting as the original 80 Degrees was. Hurricane definitely has a darker vibe, and I think there definitely at this point is a distinction between what was on Yandhi and what was on Donda. I think are two pretty much separate songs at this point with similar beats, because it still has the hi-hats and stuff from the original 80 Degrees beat, and it sounds so good when it's implemented in this song. But I think the original song and what we have now are two completely different things. So that's my distinction. The OG version is 80 Degrees. The version we have now is Hurricane. And I'm not going to spend all my time talking about 80 Degrees. I love that song. It's personally one of my favorite Kanye songs, despite being unreleased. Hurricane is just as amazing. I mean, lyrically here, I think it really shows Kanye's faith a lot, especially on this opening verse. Finally free, found the God in me. I want you to see I can walk on water. 1,000 miles from shore, I can float on water. Father, hold me close, don't let me down. I know you won't. I feel like kind of expresses a certain faith in God than anything on Jesus is King did. The Weeknd is definitely the highlight of the song for me, but that doesn't mean Lil Baby and Kanye didn't both drop amazing verses. I especially love the attitude on Kanye's verse, the I'm not up for sale, it's just really very Kanye. Hurricane is probably my favorite song on this record. Not that I don't have a lot of favorites, but the one that stands out to me the most is Hurricane. It's the one I've listened to the most, and it's so amazing, all of it. The organs, the vibes, the electronics, when the hi-hats come in from the original beat, The Weeknd, Lil Baby, Kanye, it's all perfect, and I'm so happy to finally be hearing a completed official version of Hurricane, have it on streaming services, send it to my friends, and have this be really a solid part of the Kanye canon, because it's one of the best things he's ever composed. Both the original and this version, I think, have strengths so amazing, and this is probably the best song on the record. Then we've got Praise God, which is still a track I like, but one I think is definitely lower tier for this album. The beat, while being cool, definitely sounds like it was made to suit Travis Scott more so. It sounds like a Jesus-y Astroworld almost. Not that it's a bad thing, I still think it's a cool beat. I think Travis does a pretty good job, as well as Kanye. Baby Keem's verse sucks, though. I mean, Tame Impala, Tame Impala, stay outside, huh? Let's get right, huh? Let's get right, let's get right, huh? The bada the boom, I bada the boom, I bada the bing. I needed a new girl, my old one was mean. His verse blows, and it's just a really, really bad track. Or sorry, not track. A really bad verse that kind of pulls down the track as a whole, because it's a pretty long verse. Substantially, like, longer than any other verse on the song, which I think is unfortunate. But I don't think it's enough for me to say the song is bad. I just think Baby Keem's verse is kind of cringe. But Kanye and Travis do a pretty good job. I like some of, like, they take, like, vocal samples and really, like, vocode them and make them sound all, like, psychedelic and otherworldly and throw them on here. I think those aspects of the beat are really cool. Like I said, it sounds very much like Christian, Jesus Con Astro World. And it's a cool concept. I just think some of it kind of falls short in execution on the kind of points of the MC, and maybe some of the mixing a little bit too. I think the bass might be a little too loud on here. Jonah, on the other hand, is another song I really enjoy, specifically the chorus by Vori, who most Kanye albums have a kind of breakout star, I feel like. Someone who maybe wasn't as big beforehand, but being on that record kind of made them a little more, you know, I don't want to say more notable, I would say. Like, take Cudi on 808. I mean, Cudi still would have been probably amazing and had this big career anyway, but I definitely think him being on 808's kind of helped him be pushed a little further into the mainstream, and I think that's kind of going to be the case with Vori here, because he's on a lot of these songs and does a really amazing song on most of them. He sings the hook here, and I love the hook. Like, who's here when I need a shoulder to lean on? I hope you're here when I need the demons to be gone. It's just such like an emotional verse, and you can hear the timbre and emotion in his voice when he sings it, and it's just very convincing and a very selling moment that I think hits you right in the emotions in the right way and really gets you to feel for Vori, and then later on Kanye when he drops his verses throughout here. So, yeah. I especially love the outro, which is the final hook here. It's manipulated a little bit, so it sounds a little kind of a little more ragged, a little more kind of weathered and torn, and it really just brings out kind of the feel of you being like God's soldier, roughing through it, and even after all this hardship and everything you've gone through, you're tired, you're still fighting through, and I think that's really interesting, and I think Kanye knew what he was doing there, definitely. Shows his strengths as a producer and as a visionary, as a lot of his music does. Okay, it's pretty forgettable. I don't have much to say. I guess Yachty's verse. I don't know. Cool to see Yachty here. But besides that, I couldn't really care less. I think that song's pretty boring and pretty, kind of not really anything to say about it. Junior, on the other hand, I really like this song. I've heard some people criticize it as being one of the weaker songs on the album. People saying its bass is too loud and blown out, which may be a little bit. Fantano said it sounded like Kanye was trying to do a bad Cardi impression. I see it, but I disagree. I think it does sound a lot like a Cardi song, but it's far more kind of regal and has that kind of godly vibe to it with the organs and everything. It's something I don't think Playboy Demon Time Cardi would ever make. I mean, it's definitely pretty similar to some of the feels you'd get from Self-Titled and Dial-It, but the organs and general vibe of the song is far more spiritual. But I still love it. I think Kanye does a pretty good job on it, and I just love to hear another Playboy Cardi verse. This one being closer to the old Cardi, not quite as Whole Lotta Reddish as it was on We Off the Grid, but still a very good verse. I really enjoy this song. I think the synths are so bright, and it is just a really fun moment. And maybe one you won't take as seriously as a track like Jonah, Hurricane, Off the Grid, but one you can still enjoy nonetheless, because I feel like that's kind of the general vibe of this album. Is it has a lot of different sounds. Of course, we had Hurricane, which was this kind of dark R&B kind of inspired huge song. You have, Praise God, which is like a drugged out Travis song. You have Off the Grid was drill bangers, and now we have here a Jesus-y trap banger. I mean, it's pretty much a sequel to Jesus Trap, or what it's really called, On God from Jesus is King, the Pierre song. I've dubbed it Jesus Trap. It's kind of a sequel to that. It is a religious trap banger, but I think it works. And I'm a fan of it, although Pierre did not produce it as far as I know, which is unfortunate. But a little side note, Kanye being on a Pierre beat is pretty awesome, and that's something I want to see more of. Now, for what's probably my second favorite song on the record, is Believe What I Say. Oh my god, when I first heard this at the listening party, I freaked out on Twitter, because I just kind of tuned into the listening party randomly around Hurricane. I'm like, oh cool, Hurricane. I already knew Hurricane was going to be on the record. And listened to it through a little bit, I ended up staying till the end, but at one moment, I heard it. I heard that bass line and went, is this that Twitter song? Believe What I Say? Because I loved that little Twitter snippet he put out. It was so amazing for such a short amount of time, and I thought, this is amazing. It's too bad this is never going to come out. And then it was out. It was here. It was all of a sudden going to be on Donda. And it's just so amazing to hear it. It's definitely a bright spot on the album, kind of emotionally and lyrically, and sonically. It's definitely a lot brighter and more uplifting. It's more of a kind of groove and funk-driven song. The bass line really propels it forward. It's more about that, I think, than the beat per se. And it's just so much fun. It's definitely more of a danceable song. A lot more. It's just fun. It's a very fun, bright song. I love the bass line. I think Kanye's singing sounds absolutely amazing here, and the melodies are so good. And I think Kanye really has worked on his singing. I mean, you listen to some of his singing from, like, My Beautiful Dark Twisted Fantasy. You listen to Runaway. Not to dog on Runaway. It's one of the greatest songs ever made. But his singing and talents and abilities have come so far, I feel like, on this point. And it sounds so good here. And the melodies are just so inviting and so comforting. Don't let the lifestyle drag you down is a wonderful moment. And of course, like I said, the Lauryn Hill sample, how they flip that into the beat is just amazing to hear. Of course, Miss Lauryn Hill's a legend, and I'm so glad she is at least represented some way in the modern hip-hop landscape. I mean, if you listen to, like, early kind of mid-2000s rap, I mean, even the College Dropout Late Registration, you can hear the influence that the miseducation of Lauryn Hill had on those records. So I'm glad she's getting the recognition she deserves. And just everything about the song, the chorus, and especially the bass line. I absolutely love the bass line of this song. It just drives everything forward. And then the kind of background vocals, the ooh, 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 ooh. All of that come together with Kanye's just really nice singing and crooning, and the comforting melodies, along with that groovy bass line and the background vocals. It all comes together to just make this super bright spot of a song on a pretty bleak record. This record is definitely dark in places, so it's good that this little middle portion has some brighter moments, including the next song, 24, which is another absolutely beautiful song that has the Sunday service choir on it. Really, this is one of the most religious, gospel-fueled songs on the album, but it's written so beautifully, and I feel like, once again, is a very good testament to Kanye's faith, where I feel like a lot of it didn't translate in the last record, I really do feel it here. The opening of this is just absolutely blissful. Dear God, make it alright. Only you can make it alright. And the entire choir just singing together. It's such a powerful moment. And then Kanye comes in again singing, sounding beautiful. And all of the song, the pianos and the organs just sound like salvation. They're so blissful and peaceful sounding. It sounds like what you would think heaven would sound like, almost, in a way. And I know that's weird to put it, but I envision what I think heaven would look like. Clouds, angels, blue skies. That's what I envision from this song. And I think it's got a really good message to just kind of keep going and keep fighting. I think it's beautiful all the way through. Of course, like I said, choir and Kanye. The repetition of "we're gonna be okay, we're gonna be okay" is just so comforting. And so is the repeated lines, "I know you're alive and God's not finished. The devil's a lie, but now he's finished." Specifically, "I know you're alive." We know we're alive and God's not finished, saying, there's still so much more to go with life, and everything might seem bad, but you just need to keep powering through. And I think it's just such a warm, comforting reminder of life and how things do get better. And also a reminder to those who believe in the Christian faith that things may seem bad, but God gives his toughest soldiers his hardest battles. And I think that's a good reminder of God's not finished with your plan. And even if you're not religious, I think it's a very warm, nice, peaceful sentiment. That's the best way I can describe this song. Beautiful, blissful, and peaceful. And it's just a special moment in music, and you don't get a lot of songs like this. And it really does make you feel like you're going to be okay. You believe what they say when Kanye and when the Sunday service say God's not finished and that you're going to be okay and everything will be all right in the end. And I think that's a beautiful sentiment. Then, a completely different vibe, we've got Remote Control, which I think is a pretty cool song. Some people have not been a fan of it. I really like it. I like the melodies here, both on the verses and the chorus. Please don't ask again, who's up in the van? That's my only fans. Was in my hovercraft, had another laugh, got it on remote control. Is just really infectious in a way. It's just such a good melody, and it just really gets itself into your mind and your ears. Even though necessarily I don't really know what Kanye's talking about here, but it still sounds cool. I think the beat sounds pretty cool. Almost sounds a little drainy. Some of the kind of bubbly synthesizers here sound a little Drain Gang-y. I'm not gonna lie. Now, I like Drain Gang. I love Blade. So it's not a bad thing. I just think it's interesting. Something Kanye's really messed with much. So yeah, it sounded a little drainish, but I'm here for it. I like Drain. That's so cringe. I need to stop saying that. But you get my point. It sounds cool. The bum 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 bum. I know that was probably a really poor imitation, but you get what I mean. And then the outro. Oh, I almost forgot. There's a Thug feature on this song, which is always a really nice surprise. I think Thug is a really cool and interesting artist. Specifically vocally, I think has a really interesting vocal kind of style and performance. And I just think he's a great addition on this song. And it's always a nice surprise to hear Young Thug on a track, honestly. I mean, I enjoyed Slime Season 2 from earlier this year. Or Slime Language 2, I'm sorry, from earlier this year. So it's definitely good to see him doing some more stuff. I like Thug. Thug's cool. So yeah, Young Thug feature's always nice. And then there's that stupid outro for Globba Globba Gollub or whatever. It was longer at the first listening party, and I thought I was having a stroke at that point. I'm like, what is going on right now? Because this cool song had just ended, and all of a sudden we've got, I am the glob glob gob gob, the schwabble double gobble gobble fibber flabber flub. I'm like, what? But it's shortened here. It's only a couple seconds at the tail end of the song. I'm not gonna lie. I think it's pretty funny, and I'm glad he kept it in. It's pretty humorous. I still find myself chuckling at it once in a while when I'm listening to this album. over a week later, so I'm glad he kept at least a little bit of that in. Moon. Moon, 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 moon. Moon is one of the most beautiful things Kanye's ever created, which once again says a lot. He's made Ultralight Beam and Devil in a New Dress and We Major, and this stands to be one of his, if not his most beautiful song. Mike Dean's guitar here is so chill and beautiful sounding. It's so relaxing and I don't want to say sorrowful, but it's definitely filled with a lot of kind of melancholy emotions, but in a comforting kind of way. Just very calming. And Don Toliver comes in and sings the hook here, which is very reminiscent, kind of interpolates the melodies from Hurricane, calling back earlier in the album. And this beautiful falsetto he croons over it. And then we get Cudi. Oh, man. Here we go strapping. Never forget all the memories. So much to say in these melodies. Stare at the sky. The moon singing sweet. Oh, my God. Such a sweet moment. Angels, they say I'm not ever weak. Such a lonely moment. Heaven knows I might never sleep. Trouble in my soul. But hey, I've been praying. Life can be draining. But we gotta keep hauling. And it's just so nice to hear Cudi's voice. He's so important to me as a musician. Albums like Man on the Moon, 1 and 2, even 3 a little bit, and Passion, Pain, and Demon's Land kind of mean a lot to me and have helped me through a lot of times. Kids See Ghosts, Kanye and Cudi's collaboration album. Kanye being my favorite rapper, Cudi being my second favorite rapper, is my favorite hip-hop album of all time. It's what got me into rap. And just hearing Cudi here just is so nice, and he gives such a beautiful performance. His voice sounds great, and it's mixed in such a way that it just sounds so dreamy, and so otherworldly in the best, most beautiful way possible. And then they all sing together, all three of them. Kanye comes in, and then Cudi and Don Toliver both kind of jump in with them, and it's just one of the most beautiful moments in Kanye's discography. It's absolutely breathtaking, and I love it so much. And it's not even necessarily... It's a song that you can still really vibe with and relate to, even if you're, vehemently anti-religion. If you just hate everything about Christianity and won't even, look at this album or look at Jesus is King specifically because they're Christian, I think this is a song you still might be able to enjoy. I mean, there are some moments that mention praying and God, but I don't think it's as explicit as some of the other songs on this record. And I feel like its beauty really outweighs any kind of message it could have. No matter what the intentions were with this song, it's going to hit you emotionally in one way or another, because it's going to be one that resonates with you in just the most beautiful way possible. Heaven and Hell is a sick song, specifically the outro when Kanye just blows up and gives this super kind of entertaining and energetic performance where he just starts going off with the gun noises, which I'm not going to try and replicate because I can't, but it's just such an energetic and fun, amazing moment. One of the best moments on the album. Maybe the song as a whole isn't as amazing, but this just outro where things really just hit a crescendo, the synths and everything just hit this loud moment, and all of a sudden Kanye's, doing his thing, a la Feel the Love. Amazing moment. Donda is a beautiful, touching ode to his lost mother, sampling her speeches, and I think is a very touching and emotional tribute to her, and I think it definitely has its place on the album. Keep My Spirit Alive. This is where the record in some spots starts to be a little more forgettable, where you can kind of start to feel a little bit of the length here, specifically around Keep My Spirit Alive. Not there aren't some really good moments, because the next two songs are amazing moments, but then after that it really kind of loses steam from there. But the next song, Jesus Lord, is the Christian era equivalent to Runaway. This is the Kanye's Christian Runaway. It's 9 minutes long. The part 2 is even longer. But oh my God, is it beautiful. And I love kind of the sentiment of it. I love the repetition of "Tell me if you know someone that needs Jesus, Lord." And it really is, in the same way Runaway was kind of Kanye really kind of telling the world what he is and that he doesn't care. This kind of feels like him really preaching the gospel. And the same way he preaches who he was on Runaway, he's now preaching his religion and how he views the world through the eyes of God to the world. And I think this is one of the most genuine songs Kanye has ever written. And, I mean, the beat doesn't change up at all. It's the same beat the entire time. It's not like anything crazy happens. It's like 9 minutes long, but it doesn't bother me at all because Kanye is so genuine and emotional and thought-provoking throughout the entire album, throughout the entire track, really just opening his heart and letting it all flow. Thoughts of religion, his mother, his dreams, his mental health struggles, people growing up in the hood or bad places and getting through it and fighting through hard times is just amazing. And he just really opens his heart here in a way I don't know if he's ever done before. I mean, listen to some of this stuff. Been in the dark so long, don't know if the light is here, but I'm reaching for the star like Buzz Lightyear, and now I'm light years ahead of those nightmares. I deaded those night terrors when the night clears. And if I talk to Christ, can I bring my mother back to life? And if I die tonight, will I see her in the afterlife? But back to reality where everything's a tragedy. You better have a strategy or you could become a statistic. Little boy dies, he's just one of the mystic. And mama steady crying cause she's really the victim. And she's getting high and she's getting addicted. And her older boy just stuck with the picture painted vivid. That's a family portrait. And her daughter just absorbed it. 16 pregnant baby daddies say they should abort it, but we can't afford it, so she decides to move forward. Baby shower time. Father didn't show up. Now she's just feeling nauseous, like she finna throw up. The water flows down her legs. Yeah, it's fine, go up. And yada yada, it keeps going on, but I think it's just some of Kanye's best lyricism in spots. Specifically, the "and if I talk to Christ, can I bring my mother back to life? And if I die tonight, will I see her in the afterlife? But back to reality where everything's a tragedy. You better have a strategy or you could become a statistic," is one of the most breathtaking things Kanye West has ever written in his entire almost 20 plus year career at this point. Some of the lyricism on here, now some of it is just storytelling, but good storytelling. But a lot of it is Kanye just pouring out his heart and the way he feels, and I just think it's gorgeous. And Jay Electronica drops an equally as amazing verse, talking about all these kind of wild, like, historical and religious references that your normal person might not understand. And I just think it's overall an absolutely amazing song. And the outro from the call with Larry Hoover Jr., I think is a very nice touch to the ending of the song. It doesn't feel like it's trying to pad out the length of the song, because it really feels like it has purpose on the track. And I think Jesus Lord is one of the most amazing things Kanye's ever written. It's not necessarily a favorite on my album, because it's not one I necessarily... I definitely enjoy it, but I don't enjoy it as much as I enjoy, like, Off the Grid, Hurricane, or Believe What I Say. But it's just such a breathtaking piece of art as a statement. And I think that's where the power really comes from, is just what kind of statement this song makes. It's one of Kanye's boldest moments, which says a lot, because Kanye's had some really bold moments in the past. And then it's followed by New Again, which has gotten a lot of criticism for having dumb lyrics, which, I mean, if I hit you with a YWD, WYD, you better not hit me with an HEY. It better be like, hi, with a bunch of I's, or hey, with a bunch of Y's. Sure, it's a little dumb, but it's fun. The song is fun. And the mixing, yeah, I'll give it to you. The mixing sucks on this song. It's god-awful. But you know what? I don't care. This song is fun. It really reminds me of Graduation with its kind of playful vibes, especially in that intro, and then it comes in with kind of the big, bright synthesizers that sound like they're like straight out of Flashing Lights or any other track on Graduation. And of course, Graduation being my favorite of solo Ye. I think the song is great. I had so much fun, and I love the lyric, what they vandalize, he'll evangelize. I just think that's a cool lyric, and one that is kind of inspiring, that, you know, no matter what happens, you can push through it. What people throw at you, and when people hurt you, you can push through and make you a stronger person. So they're vandalizing, and he'll evangelize. And I just think that's a really cool lyric. And pretty cool wordplay. And then the Sunday service, make me new again, make me new again. I love that the Sunday service kind of has more to do on this album in spots, because they're so beautiful, and they're such a good choir. And sometimes it's hard to just listen to straight up gospel music, I'll be honest. It's not always my thing. I've been a part of a couple gospel choirs in my life, but listening to the 90-minute Jesus is Born, it is a really pretty album, but it's one I just cannot sit through often. So it's good to hear them being incorporated into the rap and Kanye's actual music like this. I think it's pretty unique, too, having the gospel choir become an integral part of your hip-hop song. Especially a hip-hop song like this that's so very much inspired by the kind of big, huge stadium pop rap of the late 2000s. And it's great. But of course it's followed up by Television, which everyone knows is the greatest song of all time. No debate. Do 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 do. I got it. Greatest song ever written, better than anything Kanye's ever written, 10 out of 10. The only thing that even comes close to it is 6ix9ine. Seriously, why did this need to be on the record? It should have been left on the cutting room floor. It did not need to be here. I mean, I guess it's a touching tribute to Pop Smoke in a way, but I feel like it just kind of drags down the rest of the album. And even it being only a little over a minute long, I think really kind of pans out the rest of this record. Because I don't think anything past Ye's New Again is one that really kind of grabs me. I mean, Lord, I Need You, Pure Soul, and Come to Life are all good songs, but ones I don't come back to, I start to get a little bored by the end of the album. I do think No Child Left Behind is a really good closer, and definitely a good way to kind of... I'm gonna get in trouble. No Child Left Behind is a really good closer. And I don't really care about the part 2s, they don't need to be there. So... yeah. That's Donda. I spent 43 minutes talking about this record, but for good reason. It's got its flaws. I don't like what he did with the censorship either. It's one thing that the featured artists' verses are censored, okay? But you knew this album was going to be clean beforehand, yet you yourself, Kanye, wrote your raps with swear words to then censor them out. And it does kind of kill the flow of some of the songs. And I just think it's a bad choice. Especially if you're not even ever planning on releasing an explicit version. Of course, it's length. There are some songs, Television, stuff that I don't think really necessarily needs to be on this record. The Baby Keem verse is kind of cringe. But besides that, I think this is a really strong Kanye album. I'm feeling a 9 out of 10 on Donda. This record's amazing. Kanye has really proved that he hasn't fallen off. And that he can still make Christian music that's experimental, boundary-pushing, and life-changing. So, 9 out of 10. I think if you cut some of the fat off of this record, it could be a 10. And maybe will be in the future. It's definitely one of the best records I've heard all year. Certified Lover Boy has nothing on this. So yeah, that's my review. Thank you for watching. Share with your Kanye friends. They're the Kanye best. That was cringe. Thank you for watching, and I'll see you all next time.